And welcome to the afternoon session of the Board of County Commission meeting here in Seminole County. The date is April 23, 2024. I would ask that each and every one of you silence your cell phones, any other electronic devices you may have out of consideration for those speakers, as well as the clerk who will be taking minutes during this presentation. First up is accept proof of publication.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Like sign. Seeing none, carries unanimous. Has any commissioner received any ex parte communication? If so, please disclose and how you've submitted it.
I have not received any.
Neither have I.
None.
None.
I have received none as well. All right. We will now ask the county attorney, Ms. Kate Latour, to read the rules of public participation for the meeting.
While the board welcomes comments from all persons with an interest in these proceedings, Florida law requires that the board's decision in quasi-judicial actions be supported by competent, substantial evidence presented to the board during the hearings on the applications. Competent, substantial evidence is such evidence as a reasonable mind would accept as adequate to support a conclusion. There must be a factual basis in the record to support opinion testimony from both expert and non-expert witnesses. Persons presenting testimony may rely on factual information that they present, that is presented by county staff, that the applicant presented, or on factual information included in the county staff report to support their testimony. All persons who present written materials to the board for consideration must ensure that a copy of such materials is provided to the clerk for inclusion in the board's record of proceedings and official minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Latour. I would ask each and every person who desires to speak today, make sure you fill out one of these forms. You can find them in the lobby. If you do not want to speak and you just want a written comment, fill out the green side with your comments, then hand it to Ms. Dominique here at our clerk, so she'll have that for the record. Our first item up is item 39, item 2024-0135, public nuisance. And this will be presented by Ms. Liz Parkhurst.
Good afternoon. For the record, Liz Parkhurst, Building Division. Item number 39 is a request for an order to be imposed declaring that unoccupied structures located at 4280 Tangerine Avenue, Sanford, a public nuisance and require corrective action be taken by the record property owner. On February 27, 2024, the board issued a notice of determination of public nuisance for the unoccupied structures. This notice ordered that the structures be repaired or rebuilt in compliance with the Florida Building Code or be abated through demolition. To date, no corrective action to address the structures have been taken, and there continues to be a steady decline in the condition of the property. The purpose of this public hearing is to provide the record property owner the opportunity to appear before the board to state why the structures do not create a public nuisance and why the property should not be abated. Pursuant to Chapter 168 Seminole County Code, notice of this hearing was received by the record property owner. On March 20th, 2024, the Seminole County Sheriff's Office served the summons to appear along with the notice of determination on Evelyn Britton, the record property owner. Staff recommends that the board issue an order declaring that unoccupied structures a public nuisance and require corrective action be taken by May 23, 2024. In event that the record property owner does not take corrective action by May 23, 2024, it is recommended that the board direct staff to abate the public nuisance. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Parkhurst. Any questions from the board? Seeing none, is Ms. Britton present today or their agent that wishes to make any statements? Nobody here on behalf of the registered property owner. Ms. Britton? Seeing none, we will go to public participation. Any public speakers?
No, sir.
Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and go to board for board action. Commissioner Hurd, this is your district.
Chairman, I move to adopt a resolution issuing an order to declare the existence of a public nuisance at 4280 Tangerine Avenue in Sanford, requiring corrective action by May 23rd, 2024.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in
Excuse
favor?
me. Sorry, I'm Chairman.
I caught it.
Can we, okay. There's a portion of the
the corrective action,
Got it.
authorizing staff to fix it, so.
Got it. I blinked too early, so I'm going to amend.
You're doing so good.
We were doing so good. I'm going to amend my motion to include and authorize the necessary corrective action by the county in the event the nuisance is not abated by the record owner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seconder agree?
Yes.
I'm in the second.
Seconder agrees. Any further discussion? Anything else from staff? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign. Seeing none, motion carries unanimously. Next item is item 40, which is item number 2024-0237, Orange Boulevard rezone. Consider a rezone from Agriculture 1 and PD Plan Development to C3, General Commercial and Wholesale, on approximately 5.14 acres, located on the south side of Orange Boulevard, approximately 0.25 miles west of Interstate 4. This will be put on by Ms. Ann Silloway.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm so sorry.
Yes.
My pen was not sufficient in trying to get your attention. I am so sorry. With the last item
Yes.
that we just completed, a question that just occurred to me is, with the amount of debris and large, heavy items that are on that property, and this is probably a question for legal, when those items are removed, and if it gets to the place where the property owner does not abate it themselves, and if the last piece of that motion is necessary, that the county would come in and abate it, what would the process be for removing all of the various and sundry items on the property, and who would take possession of those? What does that look like?
So a couple things you have to keep in mind for that particular property. The nuisance violation was on the property that you showed, but some of the materials and cars are actually on an adjacent property that's also owned by the property owner. So the first order of business, and we've advised staff, is to have the property staked to show that where the actual nuisance was called for on the property, and so that will be the area where the demolition will occur. So as far as which part of the accumulation is on which property, that will be determined before if the county has to take corrective action, will be determined at that time.
Okay.
I don't know if I answered your question. So then we're going to have to, so I don't know whether those
Right.
cars, which property they're located on, but
Right.
but the notice for that particular case was just for the lot
structure.
that had the structure on it. So we'll
Right.
have to see what other accumulations on there. And then, of course, we have other methods that we have to follow if we do end up having removed debris, and what we have to keep or get rid of and how we do that. So we'll follow
Okay.
what we're required to do.
And that's probably unfair to ask you a what-if question, but as I was looking at those pictures and thinking about the work that would have to be done just to gain access to the structure, I was, trying to think, how would I attack this? Well, how would we approach this?
Yeah, that's the first thing we're going to do, is have a surveyor go out and stake
Okay,
the area, and then make a plan of action from there.
okay, thank you so much.
Is your question?
It does, thank you.
And Chairman, if I can provide some additional clarification.
Certainly.
For the record, Rebecca Hammock, Development Services Director. So this nuisance abatement would include the structure, the swimming pool, and removal of the tires, but it would not include removal of the vehicles. So we'd have to do that through a separate process.
Okay.
And what I can tell you to add to that, as far as the vehicles, because this has happened in my district, we have a contractor who does the towing or removal. They have to follow the statutory lien requirements and notice registered owners. And there's a certain period of time that goes on that the registered owner has to come claim it, pay for the towing and whatever storage may exist, and if not, it goes to a public sales situation where it's then auctioned off, usually in a salvage situation.
And also, Chairman, I believe the property owners may have come into the chambers after the item was closed.
After the hearing and public input has all been closed?
I believe so.
Well, Mrs. County Attorney,
Well, technically, the hearing has concluded. The motion's been made, seconded, and voted on, so it would be at the discretion of the chair and the board whether they wanted to hear from the owners at this time.
Well, in an abundance of caution and latitude, I would ask that, are you Miss Britton? Miss Britton, do you have something to say? And if so, please come up to the podium here, if staff could help direct her up. Sir, are you going to act as her agent?
Yeah.
In your relationship to Miss
That's
Britton?
my mom.
Okay. If you would be kind enough to come up to the podium?
You okay?
I'm sorry, I'm
I'm
extremely...
sorry, the news people were out of the house this afternoon, and it's just absolutely,
They had me so upset.
Upset.
I'm still
So-
not just right, so excuse me for being...
So, thank you, and I appreciate it. Just
she's a little fragile.
be
so
calm,
that's-
and it's okay.
all right.
Do you want
them
them
to
to state their name for the...
Please state your name and address for the
Evelyn
record.
Britton.
And your address?
Yes.
Your mom address.
Yeah,
Your-
this
your
is my son.
Mom, the address, where you
Oh,
live.
I'm sorry, the address 4261 Tangerine Avenue, Sanford.
Yes, ma'am. And sir, are you,
32773.
and you're going to be speaking as well?
Yes, sir.
If you could just go ahead and give us your name and your address.
Mark, M-A-R-K, Britton, B-R-I-T-T-O-N, address is 4261 Tangerine Avenue, Sanford, Florida, 32773.
So same address?
Same address.
Okay,
absolutely.
thank you.
I'm
And-
there to take care of her.
Okay. Typically, we will let the property owner speak. If you want to speak on her behalf, that's fine. If you both want to speak, let's start with whoever wants to start, and we'll
All right,
go from
I
there.
didn't see any of the pictures, but I know what's there,
Sure.
okay? I'm in the process of removing all the stuff. I've already started, I'm in the process of removing stuff out of the house so I can demo the house. The house is, I'm gonna demo the house. It's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. There was a miscommunication between me and my mom. I was the understanding, she had sentimental value to it because she was there since she was 5 years old. I'm like, and she was, so finally, here just recently, a couple months back, she said, well, you can tear it down. I said, thank you. So it's got a lot of odds and ends of parts and whatnot inside the house that I'm placing somewhere else. The vehicles, me and my son are placing the vehicles. And as soon as I get this stuff out of the inside, I'm coming down to see the lady at the permit office, and the house is going away.
Ma'am.
I'm working on that as
Okay.
we speak.
All right. Is there anything else you would like to say other than that?
I don't know what was said or done, but.
Well, let me try to bring you up to speed.
Okay.
So the board has already made a decision. We're the first agenda item up.
Okay.
We took public input. We called for Ms. Britton numerous times. A move was made to ask the county staff to move forward, if not in compliance, by May 23rd, 2024, to begin the arrangements of cleaning the place up and take the necessary action. And that decision has been made. My question to you all is, this is obviously not the first time you're aware of this, I'm sure. This typically does not get to this level unless it has gone on for an extended period of time. Can you speak to that?
No, we come to court, what was it?
About a month
It
ago.
was about a month ago, we were of this, and then I immediately started process of, because I was here then, and I started process then of trying to get stuff moved to where I could demo the house.
So before that, there had to be some kind of code citing and violation notification?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Just that
Okay.
sign.
Years ago, there was, there's been no, I mean, I've had the code enforcement lady come out, there's a new one here that had come out, and we spoke, and she said, Mark, you gotta clean up. I said, no problem, I'll handle it. So,
Okay.
and generally when that, I took care of all of it, but
Okay.
some medical issues came along, and but other than that, I mean,
Okay, I tell you what, if you all want to have just a seat right there in the front row, Ms. Parkhurst, if you'll come down,
Thank you.
and if you would be kind enough to memorialize the first visit and any subsequent visit and contact with the property owner from the beginning.
I wouldn't be able to tell you exact timing as to when that happened, but I know that the Code Enforcement Board issued a lien back in 2011. That was for the trash and debris, remains and rubble of a structure, uncultivated vegetation, and the junk vehicles. It has not been brought into compliance. At this point, we're over $1 million in fines. So
Okay.
the code officer brought it to the sheriff's office brought it to our attention last July and asked us to move it up the list for nuisance abatement because it didn't appear to be moving forward as to clearing the property.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Britton, Mr. Britton?
Yes.
If you'll come back up to the podium. You've just heard what has transpired all the way back to 2011, which is almost 13 years now. Do you deny that, or do you believe that's
Yeah,
not
there was,
correct?
listen, if there was ever a code enforcement person come to my house, if there was ever a complaint made, I corrected the complaint, okay? And they would come back. I didn't just nod my head at this. If there was a problem, I fixed it.
Okay.
During that time, my dad was alive, and him and the county was talking back and forth, and they had set up, the county back then was going to come demo the house for him way back then.
So this has been subject to a demolition process previously that you're aware of?
Correct. And
Okay.
then I think the guy said that they went over budget or something or another and blah, 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 and they was
Okay.
going to come back the next year, and
All right. If you all will just take a seat there for another minute, please.
yes,
And let me go to my board.
yes.
Commissioner Herr, it's your district, you're in the majority. Do you want any reconsideration at all, or do you want to just further discuss this?
No, I'm just going to get the record straight on a couple of things. First of all, we considered this at this board, the Board of County Commissioners, at its regularly scheduled meeting of February 27, 2024, authorized the issuance of a notice of determination of public nuisance. That is after a significant amount of due process that happens leading up to that. Please correct me if I'm wrong, sir, but you and your mom have two separate residences, correct? You live together in the same residence?
Correct.
Okay. This has been going on for a number of years. The proceedings today are simply to say it has to happen, and it's a date certain at this point because it's been a decade or so. And so the date certain that's been set is for May 24th, 2024. 23rd, 2024. And at that point, if it's not been rectified, then the county can step in and abate the problem. So there are a couple of things that can happen between now and then, and county attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, but you can work with our team to make sure that they know where you are in the process, and they can make a determination as to what and when they will do it, but they have a right to do it based on today's proceedings of May 23rd, 2024. And I believe our board clerk is raising her hand. Did you have your hand up, Dominique?
What?
I received a speaker form, even though, Chairman, I know you closed public comment.
We've closed public participation. Thank you.
So the good news about this, if I might add, is that this might be the first time in a long time, obviously a very long time, that we have a meeting of the minds in that we all agree that the structures need to come down. Now the opportunity is to determine whether or not you will take them down between now and the date that was assigned, or if you'll let the county take them down after the fact and lien the property. And quite honestly, if I were you, I would investigate that with our team, because that may be the easier of the solutions for you, and it may be the most cost-effective of the solutions for you as well. It's certainly an option for you to consider.
Okay. Very good. Sir, what I would ask that you do is get with our staff. Ms. Parkhurst can hook you up with the appropriate people. Ms. Hammock, if you would assist the Britons on any further information they may need, probably you're going to get Mr. Pike involved from a building code standpoint. Whatever you can do to assist them and help them along, and I'm sure you will, but please do that. Okay?
And I'd just like to say to the resident, I am sorry you had the morning that you had, and I hope the rest of your day and the rest of your month gets better. We are here to help you and to help your neighbors be safe and sound, all of you. So I really do hope your day gets better, ma'am.
Thank-
Yeah, it's just, yeah, it's just,
It's a lot.
it's a lot, and I have a lot on my plate, so it's not.
Sure.
just-
Yep.
We understand.
Use us as a resource. We're here to help.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good day.
All right, you too.
All right, well, we'll move on to our next item, which is item 2024-203 or 0237, the Orange Boulevard rezone. Annie Silloway will be the presenter. Ms. Silloway, you're up.
Thank you, sir. Annie Silloway, for the record, Senior Planner with Development Services. Seminole County, as the applicant, is requesting a rezone from A1 Agriculture and PD Plan Development to C3 General Commercial and Wholesale on approximately 5.14 acres located on the south side of Orange Boulevard, approximately a quarter-mile west of Interstate 4, to allow La Mesa RV dealership to develop an internal roadway and parking lot in compliance with the C3 zoning district, which permits commercial, general office, wholesale distribution, and light storage. The requested rezone is the first step in the proposed cure plan for the La Mesa RV dealership business that is directly adjacent on the east of the subject property that provides sale and service of recreational vehicles. The dealership, located on the south side of Orange Boulevard, utilized the property directly across the street on the north side of Orange Boulevard as an overflow parking lot for the facility. The overflow parking lot parcel is in the process of being acquired by Seminole County for the Orange Boulevard Road Widening Capital Improvement Program project. The county is acquiring the existing parking lot from La Mesa on the north side of Orange Boulevard for a stormwater pond for the Orange Boulevard Safety Improvement Project, which is a capital improvement project. The parcel subject to the rezone request is intended to replace the previous La Mesa parking lot. After the property is purchased by the county, it will be conveyed directly from KBC to La Mesa. Following the rezoning process, La Mesa will need to submit for site plan approval for the new parking lot and internal roadway. At the time of site plan review, adequate buffering will be required to provide appropriate compatibility between the new RV parking lot and the existing single-family neighborhood, Bookertown, directly to the west. Staff has done a preliminary buffer analysis based on the parking lot use. Along the northern portion of the site, the applicant would be required to maintain a landscape buffer of 15 feet wide, and along the west, between the subject site and the Bookertown neighborhood, a 15-foot buffer width, plus an additional 10-foot width parking buffer, in addition to a 3-foot high wall, due to the parking lot facing residential, which would provide an overall landscape buffer of 25 feet in width. In addition, there is an existing stormwater pond to the northwest and an existing 6-foot high wall that was built by KBC in 2009 that will help to provide a buffer between the uses. The development must meet all of the requirements for parking, access, open space, permitted uses in accordance with the Land Development Code of Seminole County. After the site plan review, the proposed lot will be platted into Lot 1, and the remaining portion of the PD KB office plan development to the south will be Lot 2. On the remaining plan development, KB office plan development, the owner, when they are ready to develop, will be required to amend the PD. Staff has determined the request is consistent with the trend of development in the area, which consists of M1 industrial zoning to the north and C3 general commercial and wholesale to the east, and is consistent with the Seminole County Comprehensive Plan, which consists of industrial, commercial, and office. The Planning and Zoning Commission met on April 3rd, 2024, and voted unanimously to recommend the Board of County Commissioners adopt the request for rezone from A1 Agriculture and PD Plan Development to C3 General Commercial and Wholesale. Staff requests the Board of County Commissioners adopt the ordinance enacting a rezone from A1 Agriculture and PD Plan Development to C3 General Commercial and Wholesale on approximately 5.14 acres located on the south side of Orange Boulevard, approximately a quarter-mile west of Interstate 4. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Silloway. Any questions for Ms. Silloway? And being that the county is the applicant, is there anybody from Public Works that desires to make a statement on this matter? If not, that's fine. Okay, fantastic. I'm all about efficiencies. Okay, thank you, Ms. Silloway. Make yourself available here shortly in case we need you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Dominique, do we have any public speakers in favor or against this project?
Yes, sir, we have two, Eunice Brown and Arthur Jackson.
Ms. Brown, Mr. Jackson, if you'd please line up here at the podium and we'll get your comments. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Eunice Brown, address 4520 Douglas Street, Sanford, Florida.
Thank you. Proceed, please.
Thank you. As listening to the proposal, the Bookertown resident, I am a Bookertown associate, a committee member also.
So let me ask you this. Are you here to speak on behalf of that organization?
On behalf of the organization, as well as I'm a resident in
Understood.
Bookertown.
I just want to have some clarity.
Yes, I will. Behalf of the organization.
So they've sent you here to speak today
Yes.
on their behalf? Okay,
Yes.
just want to make sure that.
Yes.
It gives you extra time is the reason I'm asking.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. Our information, and as I was listening to the proposal, the concern was the Bookertown resident was actually concerned about the buffer, the noise. One of the things is that we have only a 6-foot wall between Bookertown and I-4, and right now I-4 is very, very noisy. I mean, you can hear the noise or whatever. So the community was definitely concerned about the buffer that we can have, but by listening to the proposal, it seems like we will have actually 15 feet, which is probably be accurate enough for the Bookertown community.
Okay.
Okay, so the only other concern is, I know that they were saying there will be warehouses, or we are concerned with the congestion. Right now, Orange Boulevard is very congested. Between 4 and 6 o'clock, there's no way, I mean, it takes you at least to get to the residence, at least 25 to 30 minutes. Right. So our concern is definitely traffic and the congestion during that time.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think that's all. I will actually begin with the person that talked about the proposal, so I can write down the information and take it back to the Bookertown residents.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And if staff would please get with these folks and help them understand the improvements that are being made out there as far as infrastructure
We've done that.
impacting. Okay. To make sure there's clarity, they understand this whole proposal.
You have gone out, I'm sorry, someone said.
Commissioner Herr. go ahead.
Commissioner.
So yes, this is my district, and we have been out to the association and met with regard to, I think what Commissioner Zimbauer is referencing is the Orange Boulevard widening project that will relieve the congestion that's out there. The need for this property is to facilitate that road project and drainage project. So this is part of one of the pieces of the puzzle that we're adding to make sure that that project happens, which will help with stormwater management in addition to congestion on that road. So this is a piece of that. And I know that our team, including Darren and Christian and John and a whole host of others, have worked with your organization around the ponds and the placement and all of that good stuff, and this is a piece of that equation.
Okay.
And
Okay.
with regard to the buffer, I'll also address that while
Yeah.
we're here.
Yeah, we're going to need additional buffer walls, not only, and I know that's a different agenda, I'm getting ready to stop, but we do have the truck stop, and that's less than a mile away from us.
And that's FDOT.
Yeah,
That's
which
the
that's going to
Florida
cause a
Department
problem
of
also.
Transportation putting in that
Yeah.
for the record. So I will go with you and lobby for that with
Okay.
that government agency.
Please
And they
do.
have heard from me multiple times
Oh, okay.
with
Okay.
regard to other projects that they've done in our district.
Because that's a concern, for sure. You have 132 spaces available that will be available for that project, and I-4 on Longwood only had 30. So there is very much a concern for that.
Yep.
And they had 5 alternatives, different areas that they can go to in order to do that truck stop. And you have residents around there that is suffering with a lot of illness, and that's pollution and noise as well. So put it on record that we are very, very concerned about that.
So, Ms. Brown, I will tell you, as a member of the
Metro Plan?
Orlando Metro Plan,
Yeah.
as a representative of this board, I insisted, and it's my understanding, there will be air quality monitoring taking place to ensure in this truck stop area, and that the air is maintained in a quality fashion. So we are aware of that, acutely aware, and that is something that I advocated regionally as they were looking at these spots. So I think we'll continue to work together and make sure all that stuff happens. Again, as Commissioner Herr indicated, that's a Florida Department of Transportation issue. So please stay engaged with them, as we will as well, as this thing works its way along. So
Okay.
thank
And
you very much for being
Yeah.
here today.
And we would like to stay engaged. It's just one thing, we need that information. We don't know it until it's almost in the final stages.
So I can work with Mr. Campbell to get the FDOT to come out to one of your community
Thank you.
meetings, and I'll be there with them.
Okay, thank
Great.
you, we appreciate it.
And Commissioner, if I
Ms.
could,
Constantine, real quick.
also there was noise buffering requirements too.
Correct.
So I just wanted to let you know there's noise buffering requirements too, and that was brought up again at the Alliance meeting this past week.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
Thank you.
all that'll be rolled out at the FDOT meeting, so you all know.
all right,
Thank you very much for being. Commissioner Lockhart, please.
Well, for this particular agenda item, talking about the buffer, I believe when staff was in my office yesterday, there were a couple of additional handouts that weren't in the agenda item, at least when it was printed, that showed that the buffer, I thought the buffer was 25 feet, and I just heard the resident say that she thinks it's 15.
It's 25 feet, yes. So I broke it up. It's 15 feet width, and since there's a parking lot facing a residential neighborhood, that would give them an extra 10 feet plus a wall.
So 25 feet.
25 feet,
25
yes.
total.
Okay, all right, thank you.
To be clear, 25 feet in distance from one to the other, not a 25-foot high wall.
Right.
Because
No.
I saw your
No.
hand go up. It's this way.
It's width. Yep.
Okay.
25 feet out, not 25 feet high.
All
Yep.
right. Yes, sir. Your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Arthur Jackson. My address is 4521 DeBoer Street in
Welcome.
Bookertown, Sanford at least anyway. But I'm concerned about the two things. When you rezone something like CR, like C3 commercial, or I'd like to know, is this only gonna be just for the RB, or if they're gonna be there a while and move out, then you can do other things? What are requirements under that particular code?
So I will ask you to get with our staff, and they can give you all the capable things that could be utilized in that zoning classification. That said, the government has no ability to determine how long a private entity stays in business or occupies a given piece of property. So we can't speak to what, who may occupy that 5, 10, 15, 30 years from now. But our staff certainly can give you a list of the permitted uses on that property. And I think that's what you're really looking for.
Yeah, because you know, you can zone this and it can be used for other purposes besides what they actually asking for. And if that's the case, we want to be on top of it and know exactly what's going to be going on. I know you can't make a promise on the future of this company.
Sure.
But, and then we like to know too, another thing, the wall. You say 25 feet out, but we need a wall going up to buffer the sound that coming over in Booker Town. We only got a 5-foot wall out there. And Brow put that wall in there, but it don't buffer out nothing. 'Cause
Okay.
everything, you can hear everything, 5 feet is on the left side. You know, it don't really buffer the noise out. So the buffering you're talking about buffering 25 feet from the wall out. And how high is that gonna be?
So we'll ask staff to come up and address that for you.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right,
Thank you very much, sir.
okay.
If we could have staff just come up and courtesy to these folks. And
Yes.
tell us real quickly what's permissible in this zoning classification.
Just off the top of my head, warehouses, pardon me for my memory, but that's the only one that I can remember off the top of my head. I'm sorry about that.
Maybe Rebecca might be.
There we go.
Just for clarification, the future land use is industrial on this piece of property, and C3 zoning is the least intensive zoning district that's permitted in industrial. So as Annie stated, you can do warehousing, light manufacturing, you can have business. So it's more of a light industrial and wholesale use. It's not going to have heavy manufacturing. And in terms of the buffer, it would be a 25-foot width buffer from the property line. That would be inclusive of the existing wall, and it would include landscaping and hedges. So the landscaping, once it matures, would provide buffering for the sound.
Okay.
And the existing wall is 6 feet, but the proposed wall is 3 feet. Did I hear that correctly?
So as part of the zoning, the buffer code, for a parking buffer, it does require a 3-foot wall, but there's already a 6-foot wall there. So that's
Great.
even better in the code.
Thank you.
I got that part.
But we could require an additional hedge in front of the, inside of the wall in order to buffer any kind of headlights and things like that,
And our time for requiring that is when they come back?
for site plan.
So that's a really important part for the citizens, is that when this happens and they decide to do something, they have to come back to the board and ask for a site plan, or is it to you?
It's only to staff, it's only done
Thank you.
administratively.
So we need to keep the local association, the homeowners association involved at that point and make sure that we're still meeting those needs.
Okay, will do.
Thank you. Any other speaker forums?
No, sir.
We'll close public input and go to the board. I would suggest, in abundance of caution, the district commissioner consider incorporating whatever motion you may make to direct staff to consider any things that you want considered in the future when the site plan comes forward, just so it's on their radar. Commissioner Lockhart?
Part of the conversation that I had yesterday with Ms. Hammock and, my brain just went blank. Sellaway. My goodness, I'm so sorry.
Annie, that's okay.
Was related to, C3 zoning has very prescriptive things that are required for buffering that the applicant has the ability to choose from. And that if this had been a PD, we may have had the ability to put in some additional requirements, but my understanding is that's not the situation that we're in here. Is that the case?
That's correct. So this is straight zoning, so there's no conditions added to straight zoning.
Okay. That being said, I don't know what a 3-foot wall does for anybody. So maybe we need to look at that in the bigger picture of the zoning requirements for C3. I'm kind of perplexed by, okay, now I got a head shake. Why is that not accurate?
Hold on.
Sorry, for the record, Rebecca Hammock, Development Services Director. So the buffering requirement isn't specific to C3. So the buffering it looks from use to use, so it depends on what the adjacent use is.
Okay.
And those specific parking requirements for the 3-foot wall or hedge is related to a parking lot. And it's in addition to what would be normally required for the buffer based on land use. So you have whatever your proposed land use is adjacent to an existing land use, you have a required buffer. But if you have a parking lot in addition on that perimeter, on that property line, there's additional landscape requirements for the parking lot. And that's where the 3-foot wall or hedge comes in.
So my comment is still the same. I appreciate the additional clarification, but I still am not sure. Because if we have a site plan, but we're saying we're not at the site plan stage yet, that comes back to staff, and how do we know that it's going to be a parking area right there? Because they're going to come back and they're going to work with staff, and maybe they decide to put something else there. And oh, by the way, RVs' headlights are way higher than 3 feet off the ground. So, I'm just kind of like trying to figure out, yes, I understand it's straight zoning. I understand you don't get to put these additional caveats on there, but use to use, I feel like 3 feet's kind of short.
So here's, and I hear what Commissioner Locke, but here's, although it's straight zoning, we're the applicant.
Right.
So we can ask ourselves to do whatever we.
That's what I was just going to say.
That's at the end of the day.
Then if that's the case, then why don't we build a berm?
So the county will not be the applicant for the site plan.
Understood.
Yep.
But we are the applicant for the rezone.
But we cannot
But we
do
can't put
contract
conditions
zoning.
on it.
True.
Well, we really put ourselves in a pickle on this one, didn't we?
Well,
But I will say, when it comes in and we evaluate the site plan, we will ensure, just like we do all site plans when they come through the DRC process, ensure that there's adequate buffering between uses. And there is an existing 6-foot wall currently, and then you'll be putting additional landscaping.
Who owns the 6-foot wall?
So currently KBC, but it will be transferred with the ownership of the property.
So could I'm thinking, and again, I know we're not negotiating zoning here, but, bamboo is used for, and I know it's not Florida friendly, all my native plant people, don't bother emailing me. I know bamboo is not native. But, it does a wonderful job of buffering sound. It's used in other places for that. So, I don't know. Commissioner
So I will
has
tell
some
you
experience
that
with bamboo.
headlights on an RV are mandated under federal statute. They are the same height as most passenger cars and light trucks.
Okay. Well, I was trying to make a point, but
Understood.
you
Sorry.
needed to know more. So anyway, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Constantine.
and I hear the dilemma, and it's been a dilemma on other things, but I don't see any reason that we can't ask the staff if it's the pleasure of the commission to when the applicant comes back, to say this was a concern and we would really like them to consider, a higher wall for the protection of the community.
Berm.
Yep, berm,
A berm.
a structure, whether it be natural or, let's say, a berm, to be done. But, we don't have to put it in the motion to say that this would be, what we would like to do. And we're also saying that to the community, please be active when the site plan comes up.
And this hearing will be part of the record,
Yes.
which should be reflected upon by staff when subsequent things move forward. So I will go to the district commissioner for direction.
So, all of that to say that the wall that's there is 6 feet. I think the requirement that was already put in place was that it would stay.
Correct.
I think that the 25 feet was indicated to be adequate. I can't imagine that we would build a wall higher than 6 feet. I do understand the request for potentially a berm or bamboo, and I do have personal experience with bamboo, as the commissioner pointed out before I was elected. I did not know there was a rule, and I have a lot of it because it does a thing. So I will say that I don't want to go outside of our zoning regulations here, but I will expect that once, we are the applicant now, but once this transfers to La Mesa, who is ultimately going to be responsible for this, that we will expect cooperation in terms of insulating the neighbors from the potential impact of that parking lot. Historically, what they have used their parking lot for is nothing more than parking their oversized vehicles that have not yet moved out to the sales floor. This is not a parking lot where people are coming in and out regularly.
Yes,
I
typically.
also want to point out that what we are not doing today is those other pieces of property, as you indicated, so I'd love to hear a yes on that.
Yes, that's correct.
So we're not, that's a separate issue. And
Okay.
I'm just going to hold up a minute, because it seems as though we have
We have somebody
A
interacting with the
question
clerk.
here?
Somebody has a question?
Would you accept a public comment?
We've closed the public input. I'm sorry.
So with that, I am going to, I love that I can't do this electronically. It's breaking electronically on my screens. First time I've had an electronic problem with this, but I am going to move to adopt the ordinance enacting a rezone from A1 agriculture and PD plan development to C3 general commercial and wholesale on approximately 5.14 acres located on the south side of Orange Boulevard, approximately 0.25 miles west of Interstate 4.
Second. Motion and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Seeing none, motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much.
Just real quick, it was brought to my attention I just wanted to let the board know that this parking will be overflow parking for the workers of La Mesa.
Thank you.
Yes, you're very welcome.
So not tall vehicles.
5 acres of employee parking? That seems like a
Well,
lot.
not all of the 5 acres will be parking.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, next item up is item number 41. This is item 2024-0409, Insurance Offices Properties PD rezone. And then Rebecca Hammocks, Development Service Director, and Miss Annie Silloway is going to present again. Ms. Silloway?
Hi, Annie Silloway for the record, Senior Planner for Development Services. The applicant is requesting approval of a rezone from C1 Retail Commercial to PD Plan Development on approximately 13.66 acres located on the north side of West State Road 434, east of I-4. For the subject site that is currently developed as the Longwood Village Shopping Plaza, there is an existing tenant within the plaza known as Dogtopia, who provides pet daycare and grooming services. The establishment would like to expand their services to include overnight pet boarding, which is not permitted under the C1 Retail Zoning District. The additional use of overnight pet boarding will be internal to the existing establishment, and the tenant will be required to provide interior soundproofing to reduce any potential sound pollution, and outside kennels will not be permitted. At the time of building permit review for the interior renovation, the applicant will be required to demonstrate the soundproofing measures required. Staff finds the requested PD zoning classification to be consistent with the Land Development Code and the Comprehensive Plan of Seminole County. The Planning and Zoning Commission met on April 3rd, 2024, and voted unanimously to recommend the Board of County Commissioners adopt the request for rezoning a property from C1 Retail Commercial to PD Plan Development. So staff requests the Board of County Commissioners adopt upon first reading of an ordinance rezoning a property from C1 Retail Commercial to PD Plan Development and approve the associated development order and master development plan on approximately 13.66 acres located on the north side of West State Road 434, east of Interstate 4. Staff also requests that the Board of County Commissioners make a motion to hold a second reading, of the ordinance on May 14th, 2024, starting at 1:30 p.m. in accordance with the Florida State Statutes, Section 125.66, which states that the Board of County Commissioners shall hold 2 advertised public hearings on the proposed ordinance or resolution. At least 1 hearing shall be held after 5 p.m. on a weekday unless the Board of County Commissioners, by a majority plus 1 vote, elects to conduct that hearing at another time of day. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Any questions for staff? Seeing none, is the applicant here and wish to make any presentation or statement? Please come forward. Name and address for the record, please.
Afternoon, Jeff Summit with Summit Engineering, 3667 Simonton Place, Lake Mary. Don't have anything to add, but if you have any questions, I'm here, the development team's here, as well as the company that is looking for the use. So if we can help, more than happy to.
All right, stand by. You'll be given a chance for rebuttal if necessary. Dominique, any public input?
No, sir.
Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Any questions for staff or from the applicant, from the board? Is that a yes?
No, I
Mr.
saw,
Constantine?
I saw somebody in the back that had the yellow that was going to come up for this issue.
No.
Then, thank you.
Okay.
I just want to make sure.
All right. Board direction, Commissioner Constantine, this is your district.
I just have one very quick clarification. In the staff review meeting, I asked whether or not this would, since we're changing it to PD, if this would be the only use that was not available in C1 to be used. And I was told very specifically that this would be the only use that would not be, that would be allowed outside of C1, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you very much. If there's no other questions, then I will move that the Board of County Commissioners adopt upon first reading of an ordinance rezoning a property from C1 retail commercial to PD planned development and approve the associated development order and master development plan on approximately 13.66 acres located on the north side of West State Road 434 east of Interstate 4. Also, in that motion, I would move to hold the second reading of the ordinance on May 14th, 2024, starting at 1:30 p.m. in accordance with the Florida Statute Section 125.66, which states that the Board of County Commissioners shall hold 2 advertised public hearings on the proposed ordinance or resolution. At least one of those hearings shall be held after 5 o'clock on a weekday.
Motion, it's,
Second.
motion is second. Any further discussion?
Well, yeah, but
It's okay. He
ahead.
referenced the statute, and what it says is you can hold the meeting before 5 PM if you, by a majority vote plus 1, approve it. So the motion's sufficient as stands, because he's asking for a time certain at 1:30,
got it.
if it's approved by everybody.
I'm not going to assume what the county commissioner is going to ask, but this is the first time since I've been here that we've ever asked for 2 public hearings. And the very first meeting I came here, I asked that because the cities always do 2. So Kate, you might want to.
Certain land use hearings require 2 hearings. This is, I think the threshold on this is 10 acres. Since it's over 10 acres, you have 2 hearings. The statute, the default rule in the statute is that the second hearing has to occur after 5 PM, so unless a supermajority of the board approves it occurring earlier, which is why staff asked for the second part of that motion. The last sentence of the recommendation up there is a little superfluous because we're trying to undo the default 5 PM hearing. So the motion stands as is. It's
Right.
fine. It is a little bit confusing. I know why you were
Okay,
concerned
thank you.
with the wording. Yes.
Got it. Thank you very much.
So motion, second.
Yeah,
Any
just
further
clarification.
discussion?
I'm not asking that the second public hearing be after 5 o'clock.
Understood.
Okay, all
We
right.
got
Just
it.
wanted to make sure.
We got it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Seeing none, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes our public hearing portion. We will now move to the county attorney's report. I notice we have some folks here, it looks like they want to speak, so I'm going to tell you now, if you want to speak on non-agenda items, please get a speaker form in the lobby, fill it out, and hand it to Dominique right down here at the front with her hands up. When she has that, we will call them up one at a time as soon as we conclude the rest of our afternoon session. Madam County Attorney?
Chairman, I have no report today.
Fantastic. County Manager?
Ditto, no report, Mr. Chairman.
What have y'all been doing? Apparently excellence.
We're fantastic.
Well, then we'll move to District Commissioner reports. Commissioner Lockhart, you're first up.
I am. So I saw quite a few of you at Brews Around the Zoo at the Central Florida Zoo last weekend. It was a wonderful event. The weather was gorgeous. Loved to be there to be able to support our zoo. There were, I don't know how many thousands of people there, but it was fabulous. So thank you to all of you for coming to support the zoo. The Rosenwald, of course, we had a lot of conversation about that today. I will be offering to host a community meeting out in that area with our staff that would be the county's meeting, as opposed to going to one of the various community associations that have their own meetings, because that way everybody can come together as one. And we will certainly keep you all updated on when that might be held. The City of Longwood, which is in my district, is hosting a Walk for Autism awareness event on the 27th at Ryder Park. Want anybody who would be interested in coming out there to bring awareness to the issue of autism and those who are on the spectrum in our community at that event. Passover began yesterday at sundown for those in our Jewish community. We want to wish you a very safe and meaningful Passover. The Lake Mary, which is also a city in my district, they are having their State of the City event Thursday. The Seminole Chamber hosts that. That'll be at the Lake Mary Event Center. That's Thursday morning at like 7:30. So any of you who are dying to be in Lake Mary at 7:30 on Thursday morning, I'll see you there. Seminole State, of course, I always have to give some sort of update about our fabulous state college. We're hosting our spring commencement on Tuesday, the 30th, and that will be held at UCF because we don't have a facility in our own county to host graduations. But we hope that maybe we'll be able to do something about that at some point in the future. Also regarding Seminole State, there is a law enforcement memorial event being hosted at the college at our Criminal Justice Center on May 9th at 7:30 for one of our former graduates who passed away in the line of duty and in another county, but that will be hosted at the college. Want to bring to your attention, and I've talked to the county manager and staff members about getting on all of your calendars for briefings about links and the Sunrail transition update. There's a lot of conversation, and it's rather timely, talking about the Lynx Southern Operations Center and the funding and financing of that, and a lot of questions that I have had in the short time that I've been there. And I want to thank Tiffany Hawkins, the CEO of Lynx, for forwarding to me all of the backup information and the different times that this is in one way or another been discussed with the Lynx board or with the oversight committee that maybe didn't make it all the way to the board, or various times. But I will ask the county manager and probably Tim Jackson, maybe Chris Swenson, if all three of them can be present, to brief each of you on where we are, because there's a sum of money that was ARPA funds that Lynx is holding as budget stabilization funds that they have been accruing interest on, that they would like to go ahead and have set aside for this Southern Operations Center now. But at this point, I am unclear on exactly what the scope of the Southern Operations Center will be. The budget has been, I've heard numbers, 60 million, 80 million, 100 million. They're very different. I've heard it needs to just be a parking lot. I've heard it needs to be actually a large structure and a duplication of the building that is downtown. I've heard so many different things, and yet we don't know what the answer is, but we're going to go ahead and set aside the $6 million for that purpose. And at some point in time, we are one vote, as you all know very well, on that board. And so it's not hard to get outvoted in that type of a regional scenario. But I definitely want you all to know that there are some significant financial consequences to this county that are going to be occurring here in the near future. So want you all to be updated and get your feedback as appropriate. And that's the end of my report.
Commissioner Lockhart, on that note, and I understand exactly what you're saying, I would ask, it would be helpful to me if staff would also, in that briefing, consider other options that we may have as a county, whether viable or not. If you could consider that from a staff level.
Absolutely.
So,
Mr. Chairman, also, I know at MetroPlan for a number of times we talked about their fair share of equity. We just want to make sure that the regional standpoint, that money was being used across the 3 counties equitably and fairly. And I know that's what you're trying to do.
Yes, and what I'm learning is that equitably and fairly is in the eye of the beholder.
Well, it's very easy to define. Is the same amount of money being spent across the county lines?
that goes hand in hand with one man's treasure is another man's junk.
I understand.
Thank you, I appreciate that, for sure.
Sure.
Yep.
Thank you very much for that report. Commissioner Herr.
Yes, on 4/11, I attended the grand opening of the Somerset Landings, which is now a part of the Sanford Housing Authority in cooperation with the Orlando Housing Authority. This is a good ending to a tragic story of years ago when the Sanford Housing Authority buildings were torn down due to disrepair, et cetera. This is 84 units of affordable housing in the Sanford community. I did meet with the Sunshine Water Services new COO, Sean Tomey, and I would tell you that if you are of the inclination to meet with him, I would highly encourage you to do so. He has a wealth of experience and is a wealth of knowledge and is working hard to service the community. I also met with Amber Padrick, who is our guardian ad litem leader here in Seminole County, and she had a significant amount of information to share. I will tell you I have a particularly big heart for that operation because they come to the budget hearings, ask for very, very little, and do yeoman's work with a whole list of volunteers that's very significant. And her reason for asking for the meeting was to ask if there's anything else they can do for the children in our community. So I would tell you that you all serve on different boards where you may hear of needs, and it would be worth you having that conversation with her. I did attend Brews Around the Zoo, and a good time was had by all, I can assure you. That is the first time I've attended Brews Around the Zoo, and I will tell you that I will be back. It never made sense to me before, but now it does. I also attended the Oviedo Women's Club philanthropic ceremony where $67,000 worth of scholarships were handed out to Oviedo children who are heading to college, and some of those pedigrees were pretty amazing. They were schools on the who's who's list of school, although I did not hear Stetson University in that list, and I do expect to hear that in the future. But they also handed out scholarships and grants to the teachers in each one of the schools in Oviedo. It was pretty amazing. And in their history, they've handed out in excess of $1 million, which was fairly remarkable. And the most remarkable part is that they host a heck of a party. Everybody brings food. And one of the things was pigs in a blanket, which was one of my favorite foods in the universe, so it was a fabulous event. I also attended the Veterans Appreciation Luncheon, and I'd like to give a shout out to staff. That was a wonderful event, very well attended. Commissioner Delary did a nice job interviewing the senior veteran there, and that was very nicely done. The Boy Scout Eagle Dinner was hosted by none other than our chairman, Zimbauer, and that was also a good, successful event. I will be at the State of Lake Mary because the City of Lake Mary is partially also maybe a little corner in my district. And most important of the, I shouldn't say that because the State of Lake Mary is very important to the City of Lake Mary, but also very important to this board is that the 417 extension PD&E contract was issued in the last meeting at CFX, so that is well underway. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Good report. Commissioner Delary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just want to thank all the staff as well as the commissioners for attending the Veteran Appreciation Luncheon, and there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. The veteran that we recognize was Bob Stockton. He was stationed here in Sanford in the early 60s, an author of many books, and we had dinner with him the night before. That's why I wasn't at the Oviedo Women's Club event. It was quite interesting talking to him, and quite a colorful individual. One of the first things he told us very early when meeting with him is, even though here's a book, please read it, but please don't go into too much detail, because there are certain items I'd rather not discuss publicly, and why he wrote it in a book, I have no idea. But as you can tell by that event, he is very well-rounded. Also, I attended the Boy Scout dinner. As Commissioner Hurst stated, I want to congratulate Commissioner Zimbauer for putting on a great event for the Boy Scouts last week, and a lot of good work that's happening there. Also attended the Earth Day event at Wekiwa Island last Friday, which Earth Day was yesterday, and I want to compliment Commissioner Constantine. Commissioner Constantine did a video regarding Earth Day, and it was extremely touching. Lee did a phenomenal job. If anyone wants to see it, I'm sure that it's on the Wekiwa Island website. It was very moving. In fact, I've been talking about that video for the past couple of days, and it definitely made an impact with me, Lee, so well done.
Thank you.
The Community Alliance for Children that I sit on, representing this board, we're meeting monthly instead of quarterly, and one of the things we're doing, Commissioner, is we're actually doing a dashboard regarding some of the hotlines that we get regarding children. So as we get that information, I'll be more than happy to make sure that that information is available to you. And last, we have a Kids House Gala coming up on May the 11th. We normally have it at the UCF Arena. This year, we're moving it to the Lake Mary Marriott, and I encourage anyone that'd like to attend, please do. It is the #1 fundraiser for Kids House, and it's how we decide, or how we get a lot of our funding. We do raise it ourselves, and with all the cuts that are happening statewide, the funding is very much needed, because it is the only child abuse organization in Seminole County. That is the end of my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Laurie. Commissioner Constantine.
Thank you. And before I talk about some of the events, it just occurs to me that collectively, as a group, how many events, not the board meetings that we go to regionally or anything, but just the events that we become involved with, share, do whatever, as Commissioner DeLore just mentioned, the Veterans Appreciation Luncheon, which he puts together, helps put together with the staff, the Kids House, the Boy Scouts, and I could go on and on, all of us, what we do. I just want to commend all of you, because I think it showcases what we are really about, and that is service to our community. And so congratulations to each and every one of you. I'm proud to be associated with this commission that does so many wonderful things for their community. On April 12th, I've already mentioned when we were talking earlier about the rezoning, the MPO Alliance meeting, they had a lot of conversation about the truck stop, not just ours, but those in Volusia County and Osceola County, and how they are trying to move forward with all of them as quick as they possibly can, because it's not just the need here, it's the need throughout the I-4 corridor, as we all know. All I'm going to say about the brews around the zoo is ditto. Great event. Enjoy it. The Regional Planning Council had a board retreat on the 17th in which Commissioner Lockhart and I attended, and I think that we gave them hopefully, a really good idea of how they would move forward in their.
Senator Constantine gave a history lesson.
Right.
Yes, I did. Well, a lot of people don't really realize, on the 20th, not only on the 19th at Wekiva Island, but on the 20th, I spoke at the Central Florida Earth Day event in downtown Orlando. Enjoyed that. Although not being a vegan, I couldn't find a lot of food to eat that day. The air show on the 20th was amazing. The Blue Angels were incredible. To this day, it's just a testament to, the military of the United States. It's how they can do what they do is amazing, just incredible. Excuse me. On the 24th, in my district, there's a public hearing on Orono Way and Linear Beach Drive, and things that were always exciting to our citizens, sidewalks, and that will be tomorrow night. I think it's Zoom, if I'm not mistaken, but also can be in person. On the 26th, the Career Source is having a retreat out at SeaWorld, and also on the 26th, sadly, but also in great testament to his career and what he has done for this state of Florida, former Senator and Governor Bob Graham will lie in state at the old historic Capitol. And well-deserved what he has done for this state. On the 1st, there is a CalNo meeting. On the 4th, an event that has become extremely successful in raising money for child cancer and other calamities that occur to our children. The Runway for Hope will be done. I'm excited to once again be one of the escorts for the children, and it's always an exciting event and raises so much money for the community. I did want to say, since I'm the next to the last and nobody else has brought it up, happy birthday to Darren. I think you're, 62 this week,
And counting.
No, you're not 62. But happy birthday on the 28th, I believe. Is that not correct?
This weekend.
Yep. Also, someone that works with us and has done a great job for Seminole County as well as all of Central Florida. I want to give a shout out to Jason Siegel, who won the Downtowner of the Year just this past week. I also, like Commissioner Herr, met with the CEO of Sunshine Utilities, and we had a very frank conversation about the concerns that citizens in my area have, but also, there's always hope that that will get better. And on National Book Day, I just wanted to, and it is National Book Day, I just wanted to point out that the National Association of Counties has put together a book called The Marvelous Adventures of County Land. And it's in hard copy. I just made a copy of it. But it's directed to children and kind of explains to them how counties work. And it's really an exciting book. In fact, Beatrice, my aide, read it and said, it even helped her understand a little bit more about what happens.
She's gonna kill you.
No, in a good way. No,
What did you just say? Sorry, B.
No,
Sorry, B. He didn't mean that.
No, yes, I did. Because, it is written in the eyes of the child.
Illustrations are very engaging.
Correct. That's what I'm trying to. You guys never let me finish. You try to make it. You're always jumping at it. But no, it's an easy way to learn more about what counties do and what their specific responsibilities are, and it would be helpful to all. but especially to those, to children. And yes, I am very, thankful that Beatrice did read it and told me what a great little book it was. So I would just suggest if anybody is going to speak to children, that this book is available to make copies of and everything. So.
Did she read it to you?
Huh? It was nice. We had a book day. That's right.
So I had.
Thank you. And
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us have fun at your expense.
I'm sorry.
Oh, my. If we can't have fun up here, why are we here, right? Thank you all very much for those reports. I will, of course, try to consolidate on what's already been said, because many of those events I also attended. A couple things that we accomplished, been quite busy. As many of you know, I attended the legislative Washington, D.C. trip for the update on April 10th, 12th with the Orlando Economic Partnership, as well as Ms. Tricia Johnson and Darren Gray. We met with Representative Corey Mills. We also met with the folks at Senator Rubio's office and talked about our legislative needs and desires and so forth. I will tell you that I'm very proud of Representative Mills and the work that he's done thus far. Being new to that position, I've got to tell you, he hit the ground running, and he is doing some good work up there on behalf of us and his constituents. Also, Representative Corey Mills passed a bill to rename the post office in Castleberry after fallen Air Force veteran Colonel Joseph Kittinger. I know Commissioner Delary was involved with that as well. Thank you very much. Reminder, May 9th at 5 p.m., the Wharton Smith 40 Years of Doing Business celebration will be at 750 Monroe Road, Sanford, Florida, 32771 at their main office complex at 5 p.m. Had a code discussion with Mr. Mike Rhodes, a new consultant here. Very good dialogue. I'm sure some of you are either meeting with him or have already met with him. I also toured JST Corporation, who is here. I never knew it existed, that we actually have a manufacturing company here right in Seminole County that manufactures the power company's transformers for all over the world, as well as transformers for data centers, big data centers for securing data. They are a huge corporation, and they're looking to stay in Seminole County, looking to double their size. So they are looking for locations in and around Seminole County to accommodate that. But I was very surprised we actually had that many. I had no idea at all. I also attended with Mr. Darren Gray, the Central Florida Hoteliers and Lodges Association luncheon at Orlando Health with the legislative update. They asked me to do a legislative update for Seminole County. I will tell you it was a very good meeting, well received. They enjoyed us being there, and they received a lot of information that I think honestly probably surprised our sister counties that we're doing such good work economically here with a lot less red tape than some of our sister counties may be doing. Of course, the Veterans Luncheon has already been spoken about. Thank you, Commissioner Delary, for assisting in that. Boy Scout fundraiser, thank you all who attended. This year we raised approximately $150,000 for the Boy Scouts here locally. It was a great deal for a great cause for those children that don't have the capability to pay their own way, or parents or loved ones to pay their way. This allows these children to have a way to get into scouting. So thank you all very much. Of course, the air show, already brought up, it's actually World Book Day today. It's also National Sovereignty and Children's Day today, as well as National Spanish Language Day. That concludes my report, but I do have a request of my fellow commissioners, if you indulge me for one moment. I've had a request from the Central Florida Boy Scouts of America. They would like to come to one of our meetings in the morning, which obviously they're entitled to do, but they would like to visit with us as commissioners at some point during the day to observe what we do in this building. I've committed that I'm happy to take a few of them under my wing and let them shadow me for an afternoon and so forth. If any of my fellow commissioners are interested in that, please let me know. I'll let staff coordinate that if you have a desire. I think it's an important thing that they get a good civics exposure to understand how the cheese is made sometimes in government, or how it's not made sometimes. So I would ask that you, if you're capable, you want to do that, just let staff know, and we'll try to coordinate that with those folks. So thank you all very much. Good work. I appreciate it. So that concludes our regular part of the meeting. We will now move to public comments. And if you've not filled one of these pieces of paper out and you want to make a public comment on a non-agenda item, you need to do so right away. Bring it to our clerk, Dominique, right down here in the front. We limit this portion to 30 minutes maximum. We will call your names in twos. If you'll line up one at a time, state the purpose of your discussion or statement with the board, as well as you'll be giving 3 minutes. I would ask several things of you all here today. Please try to use proper decorum. If you have something that you hear that you agree with, don't yell out, just simply raise your hand and a thumbs up. If you don't like what's being heard, just give us a thumbs down. We know a lot of people are passionate about whatever they're here to talk about, but we do want to have proper decorum. So with that, we will start with our first couple of speakers.
First
Dominic?
two are Casey Klauschet and Julianne Reckner.
Casey and Julianne. And name and address for the record, please.
Certainly. Casey Clouchet, my address is 866 East State Road 434 in Winter Springs.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm an attorney. I'm here on behalf of property 120 South Crystal View, Sanford, Florida 32773. I represent a prospective buyer of the property. Make it clear to the board, I don't represent the current owners. The Bakers, I don't know them, I've never met them, I've never spoke with them. This commission recently voted to abate the property if it's not brought up to code. I've gone through the commission's filings and notices, and I believe the commission has acted accommodatingly and extremely patient with the current owners. Commissioner Lockhart's executive assistant was kind enough to send me over the video from the April 9th meeting. As you may recall, Mr. Lindquist was a neighbor who testified that he lives across the street, and kind of gave us insight into what the property looks like, to include 10 years, he said, that there was a tarp on the roof. We also heard from Mr. Pike from the building department that said this would take a level 3 alteration. Now, I'm an attorney, and before that I was a cop, so I don't know what a level 3 alteration means, but the next two things I agree with. One, he said it was going to take a lot of money to get it fixed, and then second, he didn't think it could probably be done by May 9th. During my research, I spoke to code enforcement when I called up, and I told the young lady on the phone that I was calling about a property that's been a thorn in the side of Seminole County for some time. And she said, "You must be calling about 120 South Crystal View." I said, "Well, that's a heck of a guess, ma'am." She said, "Yep, I've been working on that property since 2017. So certainly I understand the board's position, and I understand the board's vote. However, the abatement of the home, knocking it down, that's simply going to address the symptom and not the underlying illness. That's where my client comes in. He wants to buy this property and he wants to restore it. He's not looking to flip it, he's looking to make it his home. He wants to bring his family there. Frankly, I might disagree with him. It's not something I would do, but he sees something that I don't. And so I just request that we bring this back on the agenda. I'm not asking for a year, I'm not asking for 6 months. I just want to have a conversation and explain what my client would like to do to this property. And let's say that I think that's in the best interest of the county, is to turn this back into a home. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions, Jeff.
Sure, Mr. Clouchet, my recommendation is, number one, the clock is ticking, as you're well aware. I would ask that you engage with our staff who will also engage with the county attorney's office and offer any assistance or information that may be helpful. That's the route I would suggest. Thank you very much. Commissioner Lockhart?
Mr. Chairman, staff has already been in contact with Mr. Cluchet, and he's already spoken with the county attorney. I'm assuming that his client is the gentleman who was here speaking during the public hearing that was had on that property, I think. Did your client speak at that public hearing?
He did on the 9th. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
And when you asked what his relationship was, he did not say he was interested in purchasing the property or that he was interested in doing anything to improve the property. He said he was a friend of the owners. So that ship seems to me to have sailed, and perhaps if we'd been more forthcoming, there would have been an opportunity to have that dialogue.
And like I said, the clock is ticking. Commissioner Delory?
I don't have a comment, sir.
Commissioner Herr?
No,
Nothing else?
we were just waving you down for Commissioner.
You're flagging me down. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Julie,
Yes.
welcome. Next
you.
speaker up behind Julie.
After Julie will be Sherry Johnson.
Ms. Johnson, if you'll line up, please. Yes, ma'am, your name and address for the record,
My name is Julianne Reckner, 1796 Pine Bay Drive in Lake Mary.
and the purpose of your speaking today.
I will be speaking in support of the Bill of Rights Sanctuary County Ordinance.
Okay?
I spoke in the last meeting about this worst-case scenario ordinance that hopefully we will never need to incorporate. There is a saying that if you don't have a gun, the one time you need it, you'll probably never need it again. This ordinance is much the same. In any issue in my life that I face, I consult the instruction manual for earth and life, which is the unerring word of God. And in Romans 13, it says, everyone must submit himself to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which is from God, and whoever resists authority is opposing what God has set in place. I've heard arguments that this means that we are to unconditionally submit to the government because they are placed there by God. But bear with me as I dissect what the Apostle Paul actually meant and how it pertains to our current situation. When Paul wrote this, it was understood that the government was itself under God's authority to carry out his precepts and his laws, which I might add was also the intent of our original founding fathers, one nation under God. So God, government, us. God, government, us. So when a government or a leader removes itself from God's authority, that government forfeits its right of authority over those that it's over. So if anyone, we all know, if somebody asks us to do something, someone over us asks us to do something that is against the law, we are under no obligation to obey that directive. So if any government, whether it's federal, state, or local, demands compliance, forfeiting our rights, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, it's an unlawful government, and we are under no obligation before God to submit to that government. I think most of us would agree that the current federal government has effectively removed itself from under God's authority, as evidenced by things they support: murder of the unborn, perversion, lawlessness, and the like. And I thank God that our current state government in Florida still submits to basic Judeo-Christian principles. But we must be prepared in the event that it is not always the case, thus the Bill of Rights Sanctuary County Ordinance. This isn't a redundant measure. It is, in fact, a safeguard and a protection from government outreach in a worst-case scenario, that being both our federal and state governments choosing to forfeit the constitutional sovereign rights of their citizens. So we agree greatly, I know I do, greatly appreciate our commission, your board's conscientious care of our county, both from a constitutional and from a fiscal level, big time. We feel we are in good hands, and we hope that you would consider enacting this ordinance as an added assurance and a protective measure for the citizens of Seminole County. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Next speaker?
Sherry Johnson, and after her will be Lane Johnson.
Ms. Johnson, your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, I had a few things. I'm Sherry Johnson, 172 Williams Road, Lake Mary. Hello. I am a healthcare provider. I'm a functional nutrition counselor. I work with people to help them heal using nutrition and lifestyle changes. What I know to be true is that people's bodies cannot heal if they are constantly stressed. If their sympathetic nervous system is constantly in a fight or flight state, you can eat all the healthy organic food and take all the right supplements, and your body won't be able to use them. Feeling safe is a fundamental human need essential for both mental and physical well-being. The past month, I spoke at a few different conservative organizations. I got the pulse of the people. They are stressed out, and some are really terrified of what is happening in this world. They are especially petrified that next month Biden is planning to sign the World Health Organization's agreement. This is not conspiracy theory. It's real. It will impact us all at the local levels. People don't feel safe. Many who never thought they would own a gun are now being trained in buying guns. I know, because people are telling me this. Thank God for our Second Amendment. People feel there may be a real need to protect themselves and their homes. We have never been made to feel this way. This happens in third world countries, not here, right? During the COVID pandemic, we watched Australian people be quarantined separately in camps and forced vaccinated. They are not a third world country. This terrifies people in our community that the same thing could happen here. Mandates are not laws. Mandates are not constitutional. Not having informed consent is not constitutional. Our group is supporting you. We are not trying to undermine you. We know Andrea Herr, Lee Constantine, and Bob Delary are up for re-election, and we want to see you re-elected. I would think this information regarding your voters would be invaluable. Your constituents want to be seen and heard. What are you going to do to help the citizens of Seminole County feel safe? They deserve to have a sense of security, comfort, and protection. We believe that the Bill of Rights Sanctuary County Ordinance could provide a protective shield over Seminole County. This ordinance is named using the word sanctuary because the author and constitutional lawyer that wrote this ordinance named it. It's not unfortunate that the word sanctuary was used. Sanctuary means a safe haven or safe place. This ordinance would make Seminole County a safe haven for our Constitution and Bill of Rights. Passing it would tell the people of Seminole County that no matter what happens, our county will follow the Constitution and Bill of Rights. No entity, foreign or domestic, will be able to mandate something that is unconstitutional in Seminole County. Please put the Bill of Rights Sanctuary County Ordinance on the agenda in May 2024. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Mr. Johnson is next.
These are from people that couldn't be here today.
Okay. Mr. Johnson? And who's
There's
after
over
Mr. Johnson?
50.
After Mr. Johnson is Robert Maneri, and that will be our last speaker.
Okay, Mr. Maneri, if you'll get ready. Mr. Johnson, welcome this afternoon.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to read a letter that's on behalf of Ryan Allen, who is president of the Seminole County Florida Republican Assembly. He could not make it today, but asked me when I present this letter to you, so I'd be happy to do that. Dear Chairman Zimbauer and distinguished Seminole County Commissioners, this letter is a formal request to the Seminole County Board of County Commissioners to place the proposed county ordinance document named Bill of Rights Sanctuary County Ordinance on an upcoming Board of County Commissioner meeting agenda for review and discussions for the public record. As all the commissioners are very aware, this subject has been shared on several occasions with the county commissioners in varying venues, including telephone calls, individual meetings, and the open forum of several Board of County Commissioner meetings. The primary reason for the great concern of your constituents are based upon prior experience with government overreach at both the federal and the state levels. In particular, the many unconstitutional mandates that were forced upon all citizens of the United States during the 2020 COVID pandemic. Regardless of the lessons learned, because individual rights were suspended, your constituents are greatly concerned that given certain conditions, our individual rights under the Constitution, such as due process, may be trampled on again. In consideration of the upcoming World Health Organization negotiations aimed at finalizing the world's first pandemic agreement in May of 2024, and the great concern that the Biden administration is highly expected to sign this treaty, we respectfully urge the Seminole County Board of County Commissioners to grant our request and engage with the residents in meaningful discussion and potential strategies that could help to provide a shield of protection against the potential for future mandates from an unelected bureaucracy to demand from the citizens of the United States, in particular those who reside in Seminole County, Florida. For your convenience, the proposed ordinance and letter will be emailed for your review. Please note that this movement is growing, and we anticipate it will grow exponentially as the citizens of Seminole County, Florida become aware of it. We humbly and respectfully submit to you 47 petitions that were recently collected, and we expect many more as the news of this request spreads throughout Seminole County. I do note that we are also pursuing this at the state level. However, we do not see how that negates considering this ordinance as law at the county level. As the duly elected president of the Seminole County chapter of Florida Republican Assembly, I want to thank each one of you for your earnest considerations in this request and look forward to your positive reply. Sincerely, Ryan Allen, President, Florida Republican Assembly, Seminole County chapter. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Next speaker.
These are some copies of my name is Robert Maneri. I live in Longwood. I'm at 247 East Hornbeam Drive in Longwood, Florida. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak in favor of the Bill of Rights Sanctuary County Ordinance. This ordinance is written to state that we, the citizens of Seminole County, refuse to acquiesce to mandates contrary to the Constitution that come from any government, foreign or domestic. I'm reminded of a visit by Chairman Zembauer recently to our Seminole County Republican Committee meeting. He gave an enlightening account of the accomplishment and excellence in government that put our county in first place or very high up on the ladder in comparison to other counties in the state. These high standards occur only with leadership and competence in government administration. It also sets a standard for other counties to follow. Your leadership has served our citizens well, and we deeply appreciate and respect your efforts. The same leadership is now needed in addressing the importance and urgency to approve the Bill of Rights document being discussed here today. This really is a sovereignty issue. Our citizens are fearful and angry that so many assaults on our Constitution have occurred from so many sources. For example, our federal government is about to sign into law an acceptance of the new WHO mandates for medical control over literally or mostly all of our country's entire medical infrastructure. And I've enclosed documents about the background paper on the proposed transformation of the WHO, which has gone from charity to now mandate. It's chilling. Also, election integrity issues go unattended, and voting machines haven't been certified since 2005. That's to indicate that government isn't paying attention to some very, very important issues regarding the Constitution. We don't have time to list all the actions assaulting our Constitution. However, it is important to understand the forces against our way of life are real, they're threatening, and they're dangerous. You will be considered leaders by taking on this and approving this bill. Your action will be recognized by county citizens, other county legislatures, and the state legislature as well. And the state can impact the nation. Please don't underestimate your power and influence for good to so many. This document may not be considered a redundancy. This may be considered as a redundancy, but it is not. The purpose of this document is to send a powerful message to vulnerable citizens of Seminole County and also legislatures throughout the state. The Constitution itself has built in additional safeguards for constitutional or for citizens' rights in the form of the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. You might remember the Bill of Rights were not included originally, and they were only added later as a reaffirmation of citizen rights. So the question before us today is this: will this legislature reaffirm citizen rights by passing the Bill of Rights Sanctuary County Ordinance? Your leadership will make it so and leave a legacy of protecting the vulnerable. God bless you. Thank you, and good afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Maneri. Thank you all very much. Any other topics or speaker forms?
No, sir.
So we'll close that. I want, for the record, I have a written comment form from a Don Renda. at 203 Weeping Elm Lane, Longwood, Florida. It talks about an essay that is submitted to pit parents for the inconvenient truth of transgenderism. The WHO can unilaterally claim a state of emergency on any health topic if this treaty is signed by Biden, period. That is the only written comment I have. Could you pass that back down to the clerk, please?
I have an entire stack of
Petitions?
written comments. Well, they're written comment forms in support of the sanctuary county ordinance.
Okay. I think we can let the record reflect there are.
Their names will be included in the minutes.
Good. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Anything else for the good of the order? Commissioner Lockhart.
So I've been paying attention to this for quite some time. When I was chairman, I had some conversations with some folks about this. Was asked to put it on the agenda as an ordinance, as I know you have been asked, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
And my comment at that time was that I didn't feel that it was something that I felt as the chairman that I had the ability to agenda. After looking at it more closely, frankly, I kind of felt like it was very closely aligned to a lot of the what's the word? I'm doing terrible with words today.
Late in the day?
Immunizations, the COVID, the vaccinations.
Yes.
Good night. And I was like, okay, we've been there, done that. We're like, that's in our rearview mirror. I've talked with folks in Congressman Mills' office about this particular concern relating to the World Health Organization. Not trying to cause issues for any other elected official, but they see this a little differently. They don't see this particular concern as being as dire as some have expressed. When any part of our community is fearful about anything, that's a problem. We don't want people living in fear. And people can be fearful about a lot of different things. I still see people walking around with masks. That makes my heart hurt because I'm like, oh my gosh, these people are still afraid of something. And so we have fear in every segment, in every silo of our society right now. And many times they are afraid of one another. And that hurts my heart. That being said, putting that aside, when I look at this proposed ordinance, I think we need to be honest about what a county ordinance does and what it can do. And as you all know as well as I do, ordinances can be changed. They can be enacted one board meeting and an election happens and there's a new direction on the board and the ordinance is removed. So I understand the intent and the desire for the protection and the feeling of safety, but a county ordinance isn't going to do this. And I don't know how to, I'm genuinely trying to make sure that we know that we understand the concern. When you get to we've got a lot of wherefores, and listen, the wherefores are the Bill of Rights, right? The wherefores are all of the things that are enumerated in the Bill of Rights. So we're all on board, right, with all the wherefores. It's the now therefores that would be in this ordinance. And I think declaring a county a name of something that, and I'll defer to the county attorney, isn't even a legal name of a thing, something that someone named to identify. These definitions and prohibitions and penalties, these are already unlawful acts. Putting them in a county ordinance does not make them, like triple dog dare you, more unlawful. And so I really need to understand from the county attorney's office whether or not the proposed therefores provide the protection that the citizens who are currently expressing great fear about if this will provide those protections for them. Because I'm willing to listen and talk about and debate anything, but what I'm reading, I don't think accomplishes what is being presented as a concern. And I could be way off base, and I'm willing to admit if I'm way off base. But I feel like I'd like to have some feedback, not now, but at another time, from the county attorney on what these therefores would do.
And so, to that point, I would encourage each of you to get a briefing from the county attorney. I have sat with the county attorney and had discussion and dialogue. I've also spoken to our state representatives at the legislative level, as well as our federal legislative level, who all believe this is not something that, with this WHO, is really enforceable, is going to cause discomfort, so on and so forth. That said, to your point, this commission could adopt an ordinance this year. You go through an election cycle, and you may have something you really have a disdain for, and that evaporates. And, you know, it's sort of like the discussion earlier with sidewalks. For every person that wants sidewalks in their street, we have one or two that just do not want sidewalks. They're fearful of whatever it might be. I, too, understand and have a sensitive spot for our independence as a people. The Founding Fathers put things in place for the citizens of this country, which arguably many of us would argue or have been under attack for quite some time. But I will assure you, from this commission standpoint, we have, to the best of my knowledge, stood in the breach of any of those attacks that come upon our personal liberties. Now, that said, we are also mandated by state guidelines as well as federal guidelines. And so I would encourage each of you to get a briefing from the county attorney on how that all plays down. And I do not believe this is something that people are trying to do because they don't have a concern. I don't have that at all. It's a matter of the legality of it. And then we have to look at the common sense part of that. And I really don't have an interest in going back and reliving history. And I think a lot of lessons were learned during the pandemic that arguably maybe even those that were a little overzealous will never revisit again, but we never know, is that you have 67 counties in the state of Florida. And when you travel through a state or through any jurisdiction, it is best served on these kinds of matters that there's consistency from one county to the next. That would lie at the state level. And that's where I believe it's best served. If there's going to be some kind of sanctuary, we've watched this governor, Governor DeSantis, that is very, very pro-personal liberties, do yeoman's work on protecting us here in the state of Florida. But imagine a state where you have a patchwork of you can do certain things in this county that you can't do in that county, all the way across this peninsula of the state of Florida. How bizarre would that be, and how troubling would that be, whether that is car registration, speed limits, legal to have, you know, a sword walking down through the mall and stabbing people, whether it's legal, not legal. I mean, we've seen some of the things with prosecutors who prosecute versus those who do not. And I think this governor has recognized those things. So I think a consistency in state law is really where, you know, if something like this was to be done, is better served at the state level. So that's my Commissioner Herr.
So I think it could be argued that we already have a patchwork of county regulations, state regulations, city regulations, and it certainly happens across the country. I think the challenge that we have is that I'd be happy to take a briefing with the county attorney on this. I have not been asked to meet with any of the citizens to the best of my knowledge, but would be happy to do that. I think having briefings behind closed doors and not bringing it back to this board is probably problematic because it's a little less transparent than I'd like to be. So I think if we're going to go down this path, we need to go down the path. I do agree that if there is a significant fear in the community and there are activities that are happening at the federal level that create a greater fear, then we need to figure out what that is. I don't know whether this is the answer to it or not, or there are 100 other little answers that lead up to a big answer. I don't know the answer to that. But I will also tell you that I have no faith in common sense. So I'm just going to, I have no faith in common sense. I will just use 2 words to point out that we should have no faith in common sense. Toilet paper.
Everybody hoarding toilet paper.
Hoarding toilet paper and bargaining for toilet paper and selling it on eBay. I mean, we lost our minds for a good number of months collectively.
And it was a respiratory virus.
Yes. Yes. And so I don't.
Was it fear?
I spend my day in healthcare claims, and I watch what happens in the healthcare industry, and so it does worry me that we shuttered healthy debate. We shuttered discussion about alternative treatments. We shuttered discussions of alternative theories, and I don't know that we'll ever know the truth as a result of that, or that we'll ever know what the best outcome could have been. What I do know is that no one area was wrong over another area. I believe that we live in a country today where we have decided that someone has to be right and someone has to be wrong, and that is just simply an absolute mistake, because that's just not how progress is made. And I don't mean progression and progressive. I just mean forward progress to the best possible outcome. In healthcare, that's the best physicians in the community that for that specific diagnosis, helping those that are not touching it every day. That happens in this building where one department has to help another, but for some reason, when we implemented fear, it caused us to be very human, and that's not going to go away. So I would say all that to say that I'm happy to have the discussion, I'm happy to have the briefing. I am happy to bring it back here. I feel like there's a sense of urgency that I simply do not understand, because I think this could be passed after whatever President Biden is going to do with the WHO. It would be just as useful after the fact, but I could be wrong about that, so I'll get briefed. But I don't want folks to think that we're not listening to a fear that is obviously very real. And I'd like not to be too reactionary so that we have a good outcome. And I'd like to keep open ears and, more importantly, an open mind.
Commissioner Delory.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think with Commissioner Lockhart, and I'm not trying to paraphrase what you said, but what I heard from you is that you want us to talk to the attorney staff so we can get a proper briefing, and so that if we feel if we need to discuss this, we can at a later date. That's what I think I heard from you, correct?
I just didn't want the attorney to feel like she had to, on the spot, give an answer to my question.
And I get that. And again, I'm not trying to paraphrase or
Yeah.
change any of your words, but that's what I got out of what you told me today here.
Essentially.
And we've also talked about how we've always been very transparent, not just us ourselves, but the public. We've always said that in many different ways. And I have no problem speaking to the county attorney and her office regarding this, so I can fully be educated and/or ask proper questions, so that when we do come back, if we feel that we should move forward, that we can have open dialogue amongst ourselves. That's what I'm hearing. And then we can figure out what we want to do. I have no problem doing that.
Anything else for the good of the order? Seeing none, we'll stand adjourned. All right. We are